Hey, creative. Wow, this episode is really interesting because we're talking to my friend Tamir Hasan, who is a personal mediator out there in corporate, and he is helping us think about how to approach conflict from a space of storytelling and thinking about our internal stories that actually are operating when we are trying to communicate. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome to the Vision Builders podcast. I am excited to welcome to the podcast Mr. Tamir Hasan, who is a coach, author, facilitator, and mediator. That's going to be important. Located in Seattle, Washington. He's the founder of Own Your Own Solution, LLC, and he is a professional certified coach through the International Coach Federation. Now, I'm welcoming Tamir into our conversation because his specialty is conflict resolution. And I wanted to talk to him about his story and how he got into this space because we could use some guidance from him. Welcome, Tamir. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the invitation.
Okay, y'all. Tamir and I have known each other for a few years. When
Than a few.
When did we meet, though?
I'm gonna estimate 30 years ago when I was in high school, and you came in
Yeah.
as a tutor in the after-school program.
Oh my God. This is not creepy at all, though, for real. Because that kind of almost sounds creepy. That sounds creepy, but I was also straight out of my undergrad, and I had been hired, I remember, by a parent association to come into the high school to just tutor and support the students there. Oh my gosh.
And we'll make it not creepy. The year after I graduated, you reached out because your sister was going to be in town for about a month. And you were like,
no.
hey, you're somebody of age that can hang out with my sister, show her around, entertain her. So not creepy.
Not creepy at all. Not creepy at all. Let's put into this conversation that your mother and I were friends.
Yes, that too, yeah.
We were friends as well.
She was involved with the same parent association, so
exactly. So we knew each other. Phew. I just know that I'm going to get weird comments and calls or emails about this episode. But anyway, Tamir, I am so glad you're here to share with us because here's the thing. I have watched you make multiple kinds of moves, and your story is super interesting. And I really think it is going to make a huge difference for folks to understand like how you have transitioned from one thing to the next. So could you just share with us, you don't have to necessarily take us back to the tutoring sessions in high school, but give us a little bit of a map. You're now a certified coach. When did you kind of know you were going to start moving in this direction? How did this happen for you?
When did I know? That's a hard one because my dad was an Olympic athlete growing up, so I was helping him train, learning the skills of hard work and discipline early.
Wow.
Childhood trauma made it such that I was always curious as to why people did what they do, what makes people tick. Um, Learned about coaching itself shortly after college. In college, I studied computer science and chased the money there, so always been analytical and figuring out how things work. Got into coaching 10 years ago. Rather than leaving the software development career, I decided that the organization I was at in local government had enough people that needed the skills and the service. So I started networking within that, found the right people who also worked in conflict, and they said, hey, we need your skills, but we need you to learn conflict. And at first I was like, hey, I don't want to be a mediator. But it gave me the opportunity to do all the coaching I want and start safely getting away from software development without having to quit my job and start a business. And so,
Okay,
yeah.
that's interesting because not a lot of folks like stop working with computers to start working with people. Like
Correct. A lot of people don't, but the skill sets underneath the hood are the same. The analysis of
Okay.
problems, The difference is these are people problems, not computer problems.
Mm,
And the creativity aspect comes in, um, how to ask people the questions so that they do the work. Versus if I'm a programmer,
right,
I've got to write the language and all of that to tell the computer how to do the work
right,
creatively to solve the problem.
right, right, right. And, one of the parts that, I mean, you kind of slid past was, the fact that your dad was an Olympic athlete and you yourself were athletic
Yeah. Yeah.
a little.
A little bit. I got on my college basketball team the hard way, put all the work in and showed up and walked on. And so I had that
Okay.
experience at the Division 1 level. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, accomplished in a number of areas, and your story goes way deeper into just a whole lot of different creative experiences that you brought with you into working with people. It's not that you had been kind of isolated by your work in computers, but you brought a lot of life experience with you. So, tell me a little bit more about, like, what it's like to work with folks dealing with, conflict and trying to resolve issues. Like, what kinds of issues are you generally faced with?
It's usually workplace, the older we get, the more we realize we fall back on our junior high and high school emotional behaviors and
Wow.
habits. We are
That's
dealing with
scary.
a big chunk of society not in therapy, not doing the work, lots of unresolved trauma. So you have a
Mm,
lot of that at play. But it all starts with communication. It all comes back to communication. We're in relationship with people and we're
mhm.
communicating, but we're taught communication is talking. We're not taught the other half of communication, which is listening and making sure we understand
Yep,
the message as it was intended before replying or asking our next question, because it takes time. And we're in this capitalistic individualism society to where go, 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 go. Well, even in our relationships, it's go, go, go. I don't have time to
right,
paraphrase back what I just heard to make sure I got the message and to give you the opportunity to fact check me before I respond. I just respond based on my assumptions. And those assumptions are when the train leaves the station, starts going downhill, throw some trauma in there, and we're off to the races.
some need for healing. That's funny because I was just writing this morning about healing because that's part of the work that I do. Like a
Hmm.
lot of the work that I do academically has to do with how people heal, right? And I
Hmm.
talk a lot about um, the power of story.
Hmm.
And as a creative, that's generally where a lot of us live,
Yep.
is in that space of the power of storytelling and the way that storytelling contributes to our healing. And what I'm
Hmm.
hearing you say right now kind of resonates with me because the fact is, when we are communicating,
Hmm.
especially when we are listening, that part of it, like, it feels like I'm usually listening for the story. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like I'm listening for the storyline, the reasons, the why, the who, what, where, for. I'm trying to create a picture, and
Right.
I guess I'm kinda wondering, if am I thinking about that right? Like, is that kind of how what do you end up dealing with a lot of story and helping people understand story when
It's
it
all
comes to that?
story.
Okay,
It's all story. What you're talking about is story externally and projecting
okay,
out. Within
okay.
conflict, it's the story that's internal that ties into the past experiences. So we're retelling that same story over and over and over, but on today's people. And then we're
Okay.
reacting to yesterday's story based on today's circumstances. And so the people that you're in relationship with, if they're aware, they go, hey, wait a minute. I don't know what twilight zone I'm in right now, but how you're responding is not based on this situation. It's
Right,
based
there's
on
something
something from
else.
your past that is unaddressed.
Like
Because,
something just made it into this conversation, into this context
uh-huh,
that I don't I don't understand, and
right,
it didn't
right,
maybe it doesn't belong here, but we
right,
carried it with us. It's kinda like the baggage, right? It's all the
right,
we used to call it baggage, so it's sort of
right,
like bringing in the
right.
baggage and the stories, but really all of those are that's unpacking the stories. So
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
lot of the folks um, that I deal with and that I work with are trying to unpack stories, real and imagined, but lots of them are real
Hmm.
stories. And they're trying to take a view, have a particular view of those contexts that are largely internal, the way that you're
Hmm.
describing them. They're internal contexts. And, they're trying to unpack those and think about those and hopefully to apply what they understand about those into their current circumstances.
Right.
But like, is there some approach that they might be able to use to be able to kind of, I don't know, to take one of those bags and unpack it so that they can pull something out of it to use when they are
Yeah,
confronting
right.
something that triggers them in that way, that feels similarly?
Yeah. So let's see. I wrote a book 2 years ago to help mediators not be triggered in mediations like you're talking about, because they
Oh,
need to be
wow.
centered and grounded for the participants, and their past experiences can't be coming into the room because it's about the people.
Right,
And
right.
so, what I help people do through coaching is identify the past experience that happened, because
Mhm.
coaching is very different than therapy. But if we can identify the experience and the story you're telling yourself about yourself based on that past experience, we can now work with that story and rewrite a positive story moving forward.
Okay, tell us first of all, tell us the name of your book.
It's called Stop Getting Triggered in Mediations. Very
So
simple and
clear
straightforward. Very
titles.
clear title. Yep. I
Clear
wrote
title,
it. I
okay? You
wrote
can
it for the
find this.
niche
This
of
is not hard.
mediators, but yeah, for the niche of mediators, but it's applicable to anybody to really doing the work. And you have these triggers. How do you
Right.
work through and process deact? I call triggers like a button. People know how to push your buttons, or maybe they
Mhm,
accidentally push your buttons. What
mm.
you can do is deactivate those buttons so that they no
No, this
longer
is
get
really
pushed.
interesting. This is interesting. I feel like this might even be useful, because like you said, this is not therapy. This is not, replacing
Mhm.
any of that type of work, but this sounds very much like, giving you a set of skills, right, to
Mhm.
actually do this internal work from a different perspective, from maybe a kind of an applicability, a situational
Applicability.
applicability
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
situation. Does that make sense?
Applicability, situational, but also empowering.
Okay,
It's the
for
self-empowerment
sure.
such that we're not feeling like a victim of our circumstances. Like we have control, we
Mhm.
have agency. We can do the work such that that thing that used to trigger us no longer does, and that's something within our control.
Right, because you cannot control how someone else is operating through
Nope.
their stories.
Nope.
But you
Nope.
can kind of address or even mediate for that matter, just like you're kind of dealing with the book and helping mediators, but having people themselves mediate themselves, right? And
Right.
stop
Right.
getting triggered by the things that are happening around them.
Right. Shift that perspective so that you feel empowered more often every step of the way.
Talk to me about how your experiences kind of moved you into understanding this a bit more. Like, how did you get to this space of being so good at working through conflict? I mean, were there things that happened? Like, how did you know when you were good at it? Were you already trained? Or is it stuff that happened through your life that you kind of began to learn that along the way?
Combination of all of that stuff that's happened. When I took my life coach certification training, it was a year-long program where they've actually helped you focus on triggers and deactivating so that you can put you on the shelf when you
Mm,
are in that role. Um, and part of that experience was learning to be a coach and being coach at the same time. A lot of
mm,
organizations are teaching you the skills, but they're not requiring you to do that deep introspective self work
right,
to get through your own stuff.
right.
And I've always had a natural curiosity for how things work. I used to take apart toys as a kid and whatnot. And so that
That's
curiosity
that
leads to
analytical work,
just,
yeah.
yeah, that curiosity leads to asking questions to understand. Because
Mhm.
one thing people do is they ask questions to try to lead you to a particular outcome within the conversation,
Oh,
which is
boy.
not genuine curiosity. It's a question or it's a statement with a question mark on the end.
Right, that's that attorney work.
Hmm.
That's
And so with
that's
that
that I'm
attorney
just
work,
asking you, right, so
I'm
that you could
asking you
tell
to
me
get it
what
on
I
the record.
right, to get it on the record.
Right. And so I learned working with attorneys, especially in the mediation space, attorney brain is a term in that industry because of
Wow,
how they are trained to think and how they are trained to communicate and ask questions.
for sure.
And questions of genuine curiosity, you don't know the answer. You are really trying to understand that person's internal world and thinking.
That's amazing. So, okay, this when you said, putting yourself on the shelf, like when you're a mediator, you put yourself a bit on the shelf and you learn how to do that so you can actually begin to help people with those stories. It makes me think about authorship.
Hmm.
It makes me think about the way that when, like, if I'm actually trying to construct a story, say it's
Hmm.
fiction, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually trying to understand, how does this scene unfold? Or even if I'm trying to pull a scene from my memory, because our memories are kind of conditioned. We
Hmm.
remember what we remember from our perspective.
Right.
And this brain doesn't remember a lot. But when I'm constructing a scene or something like that, or even scripting something, it makes me think about this the way that you're talking about mediation, because in a lot of ways, an author is trying to, a writer is trying to put themselves on the shelf. A
Yeah.
writer is trying to take a look at a situation
Hmm.
and the people involved from a perspective that allows it to play out in a very
Hmm.
kind of natural way. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they're kind of like, I'm putting
Yeah.
myself out there, but now we have these people and they come with these stories behind them. And
Hmm.
I'm unpacking those stories, trying to get them into, I mean, obviously a lot of storylines, you have to have conflict within the storyline or it's boring. But when they get into these situations where they're actually, you're establishing a conflict or you're trying to unravel a conflict, it sounds very much like this is helpful for certain types of characterizations. Now I'm thinking
Hmm.
about all the ways I might write you into a book. No.
Well, what's funny is every conflict situation I'm in is a person.
Right.
And so our industry is big on confidentiality, but these people
Mhm.
become characters, especially if I'm working in an environment where I get to interact with these same people over and over and over
Mm,
and see
right.
the progression of their individual story that they're living.
I
And
hear
so,
you. Yeah.
yeah, it's like really looking at people as characters and what are the personality types and the attributes and all of that. And but
And
also it's
seeing them
fascinating
that
to
way.
watch the journey of their progression of making change, experiencing different, or even staying the same.
Right. This is so apropos to storytelling. I didn't know it was gonna go in this direction, but I'm sitting here thinking about it, the fact that, oh my gosh, this is like thinking about how a story is laid out, thinking about the way that characters operate in a story seems very much akin to the way that people engage and grow or don't
Hmm.
in the context of conflict, when
Yeah,
they're actually faced with real conflict. But
yeah,
really understanding conflict would help us very much in creating more realistic situations,
yeah.
in like really listening to and unpacking what is going on with particular characters, even
Hmm.
if it wasn't just fiction, but even if I was talking about memoir, even if I was
Right.
talking about my memory and how I'm thinking about the reality of these characters and these
Hmm.
people, these real people,
Right.
um, and beginning to think about what were the compulsions and the triggers and the things that
Right.
may have been going on. But being able to like step out of that situation is a mediation. It is a
Yeah.
mediation to kind of see it. Okay, now I'm
Yeah.
more interested in right, like now we
Well,
were not
see,
here to talk about it.
part of what you said that's important is, and I teach this, that putting yourself on the shelf piece is about
Mhm.
being able to hold up a mirror so that you are reflecting back what you're seeing and hearing. And
Okay,
so,
explain that. Explain what you mean. I'm not sure I get it. When I'm holding up a mirror and reflecting back
yeah, if
myself?
you're if you are coming to me because you need support,
Okay.
I'm holding up a mirror so that you can see you. It's a
Okay.
figurative mirror. So it's not about me. Everything you say, I need to try to process it through your lived experience, not my own, which means
Okay,
I
this
need
is
to be
good.
present in the moment to everything. If we're in person, your body language, your energy, your tone, your cadence, any eye movements, sudden shifts you make. I need to be present to that, which means I can't be thinking about myself. I can't be thinking about my to-do list. When you say something that reminds me of my Uncle Charles, I can't go back and start thinking about Uncle Charles. I need to stay focused on, ooh, okay, that reminds me of Uncle Charles. But now let me use curiosity to understand what's different for you in your
Right.
situation, not tying it back to Uncle Charles.
Always coming back into the context that you've created, like all that into that
Into
space
the, yeah,
to
yeah.
remain kind of authentic in that space. Okay, that's
Right.
That's very interesting. I almost feel
Yeah.
like, okay, now I feel like I need to get the book so that I can like lay it right against everything I teach about writing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds really interesting about the way that it operates parallel, but it would, right? Because we're talking
Yeah.
about people. We're talking
People.
about the way that people operate.
One of my things
So
is people are going to people. No matter where we are, people are going to people. So if
people
we
are gonna people.
understand that and not try to fight against that, we can be more effective and impactful.
And how I mean, that just started to make me think about our current context and so much conflict, just so much. Like we're all the time turning off the news, like just
Right.
going on a fast from all the things that are
Right.
happening in the world, just because you cannot keep taking all that in and not create,
Right.
drama and conflict for yourself, whether that's
Right.
internal, or external with other people. And I think one of the things that I'm curious about is in your line of work and, just coaching people through conflict, usually in workplaces, but also you're teaching them skill sets that they can obviously use in any situation. So now I'm kind of wondering, is there is there any one piece of advice that you find yourself repeating to people often so
Oh,
that
yes.
like maybe it's the thing that you wish everybody would just pick up and take
Right.
and put
Yeah.
in their pocket immediately.
Yes. It's that talking is half a communication,
Okay.
number one. Number two, how long you talk for before pausing and giving the other person to absorb, process is another piece. We have many people out there who are very verbose. They
Here.
they think out loud,
Yes.
which is great in some circumstances, but if you're really trying to have an engaged, participative conversation, talking for 2 minutes straight actually is counter to your purpose
Okay.
because the human attention span is about 45 seconds.
Wow.
On top of that, we're only actually taking in about 10% of the all the available information in any given moment.
So out of the 45 seconds? we're taking in 10% of what we are hearing and seeing.
What we're hearing, seeing, feeling, all of that. Because remember, we're feeling. So we've got our own internal emotions, how in
Right,
tune we are with those. You've got your emotions, all of that. So
right.
the longer you talk, the more of your message actually gets missed, which defeats your purpose in talking in the first place.
Okay. You're like just disrupting my entire lecturing world right now. No, I'm not a lecturer. I'm not a
Yeah,
lecturer. But this is fascinating because I mean, we know, we're told as academics, of course, that, forget about it if you're talking in in a classroom for
yeah,
45 minutes. You have to
yeah.
shift, like things have to
Right.
shift
Yeah.
in different smaller chunks.
Yep.
And so what you're saying to me is that 45 minutes is really 45 seconds.
Because here's the thing. The individual doesn't know that they've mentally drifted off for a while. Then they
Okay.
have to have the skill set and self-awareness to bring themselves back in. Meanwhile, you've been talking the whole time.
Right.
And
And
so
so
the
that's
other
the part.
half
Yeah.
is building in, if you're the listener, interrupting people and it's like, hold on, hold on, hold on. I want to make sure I'm tracking.
Mhm.
Paraphrase back what you understood.
Mhm.
And then you either let them continue or you respond. And as
Mhm.
a speaker, pause. And you can couch it of, I feel like I'm unclear, but I want to make sure that my message is getting out there. Can you tell me what you understood so far?
Mhm.
Either way, we can build that into the other half of communication, which is the listening piece and the verification, because we can avoid a whole lot of assumptions by doing just that. And with assumptions come little feelings, come big feelings, come stories, and that train is moving and we're off to the races.
Yeah, that's all that is this is really good advice. And now that you've entered into the space of that part of communication that's really just about speaking, because I'm also, I know that you're a speaker. I know that you know, address groups and organizations. How has this work impacted how you are and what you do as a speaker? Are you like when you can't do it quite that way, do you ever use some of these skills
Oh,
in those
100%.
situations? How does
100%.
that come through?
I, any kind of talking or training I do, I structure it like a coaching conversation, which is let's identify and get clear on what the problem is up front.
Mhm.
Let's identify what the dream outcome is for that conversation. Everything I'm going to talk about is filling in the gap. From a teaching and speaking standpoint, it's more talking, but I'm throwing questions in there to really get people thinking about what I'm saying and applying it to themselves in real time with a real situation. So there's that empowerment because at the end, they need an action plan that they are going to create for themselves and then feel motivated to actually tackle. If I give them actions, there's less motivation. But if they
Mm.
give themselves actions, they're fully bought in because it's their idea. Because the most
'Cause they
genius
came to it.
person, they came to it, but also remember, the most genius person you know is you.
Okay, I can live with. No.
Yeah, that
But you
no
have
matter.
the what you're saying is you have the capacity, right? Like you have everything that you need is there already in you. You simply
Yes,
have to tap into it. You
yeah,
simply have to locate
exactly.
that genius and begin to kind of direct your energies, right? To
Yep.
begin to apply that curiosity, like you were
Apply.
saying,
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard to do it on your own, which is why coaches
right?
exist.
Right, right. And it's booming, right? Like I think that we're realizing that a lot of the sort of industrialized educational structures that we're accustomed to, I'm saying realize like it's just happening, that we're realizing it's failing. But I mean, for crying out loud, we've known for
Right,
ages and
right.
ages that it's 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 not aligned to how
Mhm.
people really learn, to how curiosity really happens and all of
Right,
that. It just let me
right.
not go off on that
Yeah,
tangent,
that's
right?
another hour
But
in
that's
itself.
another hour to talk. But but I do want to acknowledge that coaching, like the work that you're doing with groups, the speaking that you're doing, that, just the workplace conflict management and mediating, all of that kind of thing is actually a way of learning that
Yes.
is much more um uh engaging, right? Like, I
That
mean,
piece.
that
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 piece.
part
That's the
that
important part of learning is
is
engagement.
engaging, which is
So,
what we're constantly trying to do in these
right,
other spaces.
right,
But you're setting up spaces that create more room for that engagement, that are not operating, you
right,
know, like against itself. In a lot of ways, some of
right,
those industrial spaces operate against the idea of engagement. So you're
right.
fighting your own context. But what you're suggesting is going in and sort of creating a context where that's happening through the words that you're saying
Hmm.
and through kind of the questions you're asking. So you're implementing the pausing.
Yep,
You're throwing the questions out there, and you may not have like the back and forth while you're in a speaking, lecturing kind of situation, but you've got
right.
them doing that internal work.
Right. And then I'm
Okay.
guiding, I've kind of structured the talk or the presentation too. I got a series of questions to lead you through such that you're actually going to leave with more questions to
Mhm,
answer than answers you received through that
mhm.
process. But you're still going to have some answers to walk away with.
But that's good because you unlock the curiosity when you do
Hmm.
that, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
because once we get into a state of curiosity, once we're in wonder, like I love to, move clients through different states of wonder. It's like, are you giving yourself any time at all to just wonder, to
Hmm.
just drift a little into the questions, into the what ifs, right? Into the
Yeah.
maybes and all of that. So when you give that space to wonder and to establish that curiosity, it sounds like this curiosity is really what leads to understanding and resolving conflict. That's
Yeah. We got there. We don't know how we got there, and we're trying to find a way out.
mhm,
Curiosity is the only way.
the only way. And then so you want everyone to understand, please understand that you can talk when you're resolving things, that you can talk things out, but you have to also be listening.
You have to also be listening and listening to understand, not waiting your turn to speak.
Mhm. Oof. We can always tell. We
We
can
can
always tell.
always
And we do
tell.
it. I mean, to be
Well,
fair,
we're
for
not
sure.
all on our A game always. Professional athletes aren't always on their A games.
Okay. Because they're
They
not.
rarely are on their or C games, though. They operate between A and B game. And so
Between
in
A and B. What do
life,
you mean? Like, what do you mean? You're talking to the nerdiest person in the room, so just in case.
pick your. Let's go with our time. Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Michael Jordan wasn't always on his A game.
Okay.
He had those, and those were those amazing days when
Yeah.
he did something spectacular.
Yeah.
But if you look at his stat sheet, he was a B game player most of the time, and he's
Ooh, let
Michael
the
Jordan.
comments roll in.
See, that's the thing.
But you're
People want
like,
to
but
have
this is the fact. These are the
this is the
facts you're
fact.
saying. These are
People
the
want to
facts.
have something to say, but they don't do the research to back up their opinion.
Uh-huh.
Their
So,
opinion is based on their feelings and their memory, like we talked about.
like
Go
we
look
talked,
at
the
the stat
stories that
sheets.
they've told to themselves. This sounds
Yeah,
so much like the way that people argue about, who's the GOAT. I hear these arguments. I don't
right.
fully understand them, but I hear them because folks are like, okay, however, and someone is always talking through stats,
Yeah,
and someone else is always talking through impression, right? Like you said, like
right.
memories, like the stories they told, like the
Apples and
context.
oranges. We trying to say, is an apple orange or is an apple better than an orange?
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Okay. That's for all of the Jordan v. LeBron, uh,
Kobe, the jump to
v. Kobe.
football.
Yes.
What are we talking about? We are apples, oranges, bananas, and trying to
Mhm.
say which one's better.
Right.
Well, I'm allergic to one, so that's out.
I'll never like the other, so
Uh,
that one's a
right.
no-go.
Cilantro tastes like soap. Is it bad?
But Okay, I'm mad at you for saying cilantro tastes like soap. That is a terrible example. Cilantro is excellent. No.
But but that's the thing. And all these debates, we put a lot of energy into this. Why? We don't question why and what
Hmm.
we're actually getting out of it. Because in the end,
Mhm.
no one's right. We're trying to
I
make
mean,
others wrong, but no one's actually right.
well, that goes back to that what you said about our own personal genius.
Hmm.
Like we would have to convince ourselves of it. That leads me to something else important now. I now I'm thinking about the idea. I'm thinking about the idea of change
Hmm.
because a lot of conflict happens when you're trying to make a change,
Yep.
right?
That's why change
Um,
management's a field of study.
It's a whole field, right? Change
Right.
management is a whole thing.
Right.
And I remember going down that rabbit hole before, right? I remember I did. I went down that change management hole, rabbit hole. And it was something like, you know, where people were talking about like the 5 C's, like you've
Hmm.
got to, it's communicate and it's create,
Yeah.
all these different things.
Yep.
I can drop a link or we can talk about that later.
Yeah. No, I change
But
management. Yeah, it's out there. It's a
yeah,
thing.
that's the
Ad
thing.
car, all the models. Yeah.
Right, all kinds of models for that. But conflict happens so much in that space of change, though, because while you're trying
Because
to get people
yeah.
to change, or while you're trying to change something about yourself,
Yep. Yep.
there's that conflict. So maybe it's not the conflict that happens, it's not only the conflict that happens with someone else where you're trying to, figure out better ways of listening or, better
Mhm.
ways of talking, but what about when it's internal conflict? What about when it's I'm trying to manage a change that's happening or
Yeah.
make a change? What about that? Do you deal
Oh yeah,
in,
I
yeah.
deal with that. I mean, I had that myself, quitting my full-time job 2 years ago
Oh,
after
wow.
19 years with an organization, and that's where I made the career change, and really just being tired of systems and organizations and being in a position to be the person everybody goes to for help,
Hmm.
and you get to a point where the right answer for people is find a new job, which should be the
Yeah.
wrong answer
Which
within an
should be.
organization. But
That's
the right answer for many individuals was
yeah.
go find a new job because this environment is not good for you and what you need. And
Or launch into your own. I mean, like you're what you're
whatever
talking about.
that, yeah, or that. But and so I took that jump myself, and it's a leap of faith where it's like if you actually believe in yourself,
Mhm.
put your money where your mouth is.
Put your money where your mouth is.
And so it's
What does
like,
that what was that journey like for you? You said that
um,
you got tired and you kind of stepped out. Was it just like you took that leap and everything fell into place, or were there a little couple bumps in the road? Like, what was that like, and how did you even prepare for that change?
I had been thinking about the change for a couple of years leading up to it, and then circumstances of my sister-in-law dying from cancer,
Oh
being
my god.
burnt out during the pandemic,
Mm,
utilizing family medical leave to use my sick time and just be away, giving it
mm,
a chance coming back, and then just bumping up against that system and like, no, can't do that. At the time, it helped confidence wise. I was partnering with somebody that was going to have a contract doing leadership coaching with the record label. That fell through. I actually decided to cash out my retirement because for the time I put in, I'm like, I can make that up. So,
isn't that interesting? I mean, a lot
right.
of people don't think about that. They don't
Uh-uh.
think about
Uh-uh.
what's sitting there
Right.
and how it's sitting there in
I,
retirement. I've heard more people
right.
talk about this more recently, so I'm
Right.
glad. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, not because I'm about to run and go do it right at this moment,
But
but
it's an option to
but it's an
explore.
option because,
Yeah.
yeah, you
So
can
I
activate that.
did that, paid off debts so that my monthly overhead was a lot lower, and
Mm,
then started networking with people, getting contract jobs. Where I worked at, I couldn't come back as a consultant until I had been away a year.
right.
So, had to sit idle for that, and
Mhm.
then ended up starting to work with an emergency management organization doing conflict resolution work for them at their sites where their employees are. So that was also an opportunity for income.
So you just
And
began to get contract work from the networking that you were doing.
network. It's all networking. We talk about the good old boy network, and
Mhm.
really it is how society works. The good old
Mm.
boy network is just toxic in the way it
Mhm.
works. But networking is how we actually
Is
work.
how.
That is
Yeah.
how all of this works. And so
Mm.
ignoring that piece is doing ourselves a disservice. It's
Right.
just don't be toxic.
It's just
That's it.
just don't be toxic.
Just don't be
That
toxic.
because it sounds like it sounds like some of the things that, you understand about conflict management also can be applied in the networking space. I just kind of
Networking space. I sold home electronics and cars when I was late teens, early 20s. So I understand sales, so I can bridge all of that. The biggest
mm,
thing about sales I realized was you're not selling anything, you're matchmaking.
your
You approach it from a
matchmaking.
matchmaking perspective. You have a great reputation, you're not pushy. People are buying the person, not the item.
That's
And then you just
exactly. I keep
leverage that
telling people.
mentality.
It's
Yeah.
like you're the brand. Like it's
Hmm.
it's it's you who
Right.
they trust and who they understand and
Right.
who they want to engage with.
Or even just connect with. There's tons of coaches out there, all different styles and personalities and skill set. But you get out there, you meet with your people are going to connect with you and be like, I like what you have to say. I like how you make me think. How do we make this happen?
Right, right. And that's so you went from, utilizing all of those things that you've learned along the way,
Hmm.
right? And you started networking and you just started growing those contract opportunities.
Growing opportunities, which then it becomes referrals. Oh, I see you have been making change. What's your secret? Oh,
Mm,
I've been working with this guy over here. Cool, give me the impact. I want what
right.
they got.
Right.
Same thing with personal training. You see somebody else's results, you go, "Ooh, I want that." Cool, go talk to this
Right.
person. I'm in.
Right.
The
I want what
the
they have.
the other person's results is the sale.
That's the sale. The results.
Hmm.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's getting the results from a like, even if you are dealing in w well, especially if you're dealing in conflict management, it's the result. It's they're doing better and they're referring you
Hmm.
because they're doing better, because people are communicating more fluidly, because things are getting resolved, because
Right,
people are more productive when they are not
right.
fighting.
That's the other thing. Conflict is expensive on the back end. And like we know in everything, we don't track the back end expenses. We only track the front end of what checks am I writing today.
Mm.
And that lack of productivity is a cost that goes unrealized. That unhappiness is a cost that goes unrealized. The turnover of your high performers is a cost that goes unrealized.
You said something right there because that unhappiness piece
Hmm.
is what is part of the way that people face that internal conflict, that internal
Right,
decision to make a change. Because like
right.
you started saying, the things that were happening were
Hmm.
compounding, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And you were reflecting kind of the way you felt about the space that you were in, like something needed to
yeah.
move and it was a motivator
Yep, yep.
for
And
you.
that's the thing. It's everybody has their own tolerance for what their rock bottom is. And it's
Mm.
usually when we hit rock bottom that we're actually motivated to make a change. And so when you see people struggling in any capacity, but still struggling, you go, for them, it's still not bad enough.
It's still not bad enough. Ooh, how bad does it have to get before we actually make the
Hmm.
change, before we actually
Yeah.
deal with and respond to the internal conflict
And so
that's
one thing I
happening?
heard from the domestic violence space is the person being abused will leave when the abuse becomes more than what they're already abusing themselves.
Ugh, wow. Because abuse can come in that, it's the toxicity of staying too, right?
Yeah, there's that is internal abuse. What are you
The
doing to yourself
internal,
internally?
yeah,
Yeah. And so
the
when
the
that external
internal.
person crosses that threshold of, oh, you're doing me worse than I'm doing me, I'm out.
Mm, wow.
Like I'll use
Yes.
the example for people when they're dealing with challenging family members or coworkers.
Mm,
I go, okay, whatever's going on with this person, we're not trying to be condescending. We
right.
are trying to give grace. Now let's pivot a moment. Have you ever had experience with somebody with mental disabilities? A
Hmm.
lot of people can say yes. And you
Right.
go, okay, cousin, whatever their name is, you know their capacity is limited. Do you get
Hmm.
mad when they do that annoying thing? Or when they do some destructive things acting out? Most people say no. And I go, how come? Well, I know they can't help it.
Mm,
Oh, so you do know how to give grace. You
right.
just choose not to in these other situations. And I'm not saying look at everybody as if they have those type of limitations, but
Hmm.
look at them for who they are and what they're capable of and give them grace based on that.
No, that's good. That's good. And I think that's the perfect idea to let sit. I want to end right there because that's really good. Give them grace. Hmm. When we're talking about change, when we're talking about conflict, that's a key to all of it,
Yeah.
is to give people grace.
Give them grace, give yourself grace. Make graceful assumptions.
Mm, make graceful assumptions. Thank you, Tamir.
You're welcome.
Haven't you grown up well?
No, that's creepy.
I know. Oh, I know. That sounded more creepy. Whoops. I'm proud is all. I'm old over here. I'm allowed to be proud. Look, let me call you mom on the
You're
phone.
not that much older, to be fair.
Ah, I sure do feel it.
Yeah. You're what, 72? I'm 78. So,
Wow.
you know, yeah.
You're talking about the year I was born. Okay, for a minute
Yes.
there, I thought you were saying age.
No, 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 no. No, no, no.
Thank you so much, Tamir, for joining us on the Vision Builders podcast. This is super valuable. We're going to have a part two,
Yeah,
unpacking
no.
stuff.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
These conversations are always fun for me because, like I said, I get to learn even through sharing and what ideas I spark, and then you make connections that I haven't thought of. And
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. That's how we grow. That's how we
yeah,
grow. Hey, creatives, if you're hearing this, then you've been listening to the Vision Builders podcast with Dr. Helene, your writing life coach. Join me next time to get more insights, tools, and resources to help you get the clarity and direction you need to finish that project and build your vision. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Y'all know how this works. And share. Let somebody else know what you are learning in this podcast. Be sure to check the show notes for a link to my website where you can sign up for my mailing list and get even more tools and resources. With that, I will sign off. Bye.